Welcome to the Sacred Nurse podcast, broadcasting from WinCam in Winchester, Mass. I'm Michelle Moscone, a retired registered nurse with a lifelong devotion to caring for others. Yet it wasn't until I embarked on my own healing journey that I truly discovered the sacred path of whole person care. The first half of my career unfolded in the medical ICU of a major Boston hospital where I stood daily at the crossroads of life, death, and crisis. But over time, the cost of that disconnection became deeply personal. After years of unprocessed trauma and environmental exposure, my body began to shut down. At the time, it felt like a collapse, but in hindsight, it was a sacred threshold, a doorway into transformation. The traditional nursing role no longer served me, but something deeper within me stirred awake. I began exploring a different model of healing, one rooted in energy, emotion, presence, and spiritual awareness, emerging with a renewed understanding of what it truly means to heal. My journey echoed the myth of Pluto and Persephone. Like Persephone, I descended into darkness and returned with wisdom. I reclaimed my voice, my path, and my soul. This podcast is a safe space for those stories. Each episode is a conversation with someone who has walked through their own underworld and emerged transformed. Like Persephone, you are not just a survivor, you are your own queen. Welcome to Pluto Pathology, where healing begins in the depths. For more information, go to my website, sacrednurse.com. Okay, welcome to the Sacred Nurse podcast, the third episode. Today I have a guest, Laura Hackel, here talking about her story from her wounds to her wisdom. And we've known each other for, a few months now. We're both energetic practitioners, and we met at the Holistic Life Community up in Wakefield. So Laura's here to talk about her story.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thanks for being here. So when you were a child, I know you told me briefly, you felt like you weren't in the right environment for what you have evolved into. So what happened?
Yeah, so to paint a little bit of the scene, right? I was born in the 60s. There are four of us, and none of us are more than 2 years apart. So we're less than 2 years apart. And I'm the only girl. So older brother, two younger brothers, and myself. And my family, and my dad was an engineer, a really good engineer. And so really good engineers tend to have like structure and processes and ways to do things repeatably. And my mom was like the creative person. But, if you think about kids at that time were seen and not, you wanted to be seen and not heard. And there was a way in which life marched on. And so in an engineering family, my maiden name is Zach. And so we would joke that there was the exactly right way to do something.
Oh my, yes.
Right? So if we were doing something, you had to do it the right way, not just the way that you had it. And here I am, this little creative being that comes into this family. And it's like, okay, well, wait, what are emotions? Our emotions aren't allowed. Like I can remember if I was crying, I needed to go to my room because you didn't cry in public. Like there were all kinds of things that you just didn't do. And so I became who I needed to be to live and thrive in this world. But it took me till I was in my 40s to start becoming me.
And how did you know you had to change?
So when I was in my 40s, I had this moment where I had everything anyone could want to be happy. I had a great house. I had 3 beautiful kids. I had a husband who adored me. I had a job that I liked. So why was I waking up every day not feeling like I was living like my best life? So there was an emptiness in me still because everything I had was sort of external.
Right.
And that was my wake-up call to go on an inward journey.
So how did you start your inward journey? What was the first thing you did?
So the first thing I did was, which is totally unlike me, I reached out for support. So I had been working at a job for a long time, and I was like, I'm not sure this is my thing, but I don't know what to do next. And so I made a decision to leave the job without knowing what was next. And
brave.
Which was pretty scary.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because at the time, the company had been declining, but my part had been growing. So they offered me more. And that's when I was like, I don't want more, I want less. Like, that's what got me clear. And so I left. And I actually had this saving grace because I negotiated to be able to work half-time. And so for a year, I worked part-time in a totally different thing that I was doing. So it was I went in, I went out. Like, I had the clear boundaries. And then I started going to yoga. I went to Iyengar, I can't even pronounce it still, Iyengar yoga, and learned some breathing exercises. And just like to be in touch with my body, I took up pottery. And I took up pottery in this really funny way because I was in line somewhere and someone said, "Are you a potter?" And I said, "No, why?" And they said, "I just see you as a potter." And the next day, my friend gifted me a pot that she had made and told me where she was taking ceramics lessons. And I was like, okay. So
the synchronicities started happening.
So they started happening. And, you know, the biggest gift to myself was that time. Because, of course, so much of my value had always been associated with what I was doing or producing. And so to be able to say, like, wow, this is my time to figure out who I am and to be present with my kids, and both of that.
Yeah. And were your kids teenagers at that time?
My youngest was 3 or 4.
Oh.
And then my oldest would have been 11.
Okay.
So I had always thought, like when they were in their, like, high school years, that I wanted to be more present for them.
That was a gift for them too, to have you around more.
They would agree with that most of the time.
Yeah.
as in every relationship.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And so that's where I started. And then the friend that I had reached out to for help, she's like, "I have somebody you have to meet." She's, you know, my friend Marianne. And so I'm like, okay. So I met Marianne and we were just having lunch and talking about life and where we were. And she had a similar, like, going from corporate to starting her own business. But I will never forget, like, at the end, she did healing work for people. And at the end, she said, like, I so resonate with you and I think I could support you. And she's like, because you have blocks in your heart chakra like me. And of course, this is like the early 2000s.
Yeah.
And I'm like looking at down, like, blocks. I don't see anything. What's a chakra? Like, I had no context for any of that language. And so I started working with her, and it was this idea of what, you know, healers do, right? Is hold the space for you to discover.
Right.
And that's how I figured out, really, like, I was born into a family where I lost who I was so I could find who I was in life. Like, that's, my soul came in to find who I am and help others find who they are.
Right.
Because I'm not, anybody who knows me will be like, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I never would. But I will hold the space for you to discover what's alive within you. And that's what lights me up when people go, oh, like, you'll never guess what happened. And I'm like, yes.
Yeah. I know, because I just had that experience with you at, you know, the workshop on Saturday you were doing. And then maybe you can explain how you got into the shamanic work that you do. But, you know, I was in your class and you were drumming and playing the bowls. And I felt like my guides with me. And then you told me afterwards it was hitting my third and fourth, my power center, you know, third chakra and the fourth center, my heart, that everything was opening up. And over the next 10 or 15 minutes, I just had this, like, breakthrough. I won't say it was a breakdown. It was a breakthrough when you were there to support me and just held the space for me. And you gave me the idea to go outside and go for a walk, just go outside for a little bit, because I was shortly going on teaching a Tai Chi class for this, you know, open house. And I was nowhere near ready. There's no way I could have done that. So I went outside and I found a rock and I sat on this big boulder of a rock and faced a weeping willow tree. And I took a picture of it. And for me, it was just, everything just came to, it just grounded me sitting on the rock. You know, I did some grounding exercises. I dropped my center into the earth through the rock. And I was noticing the tree, the trunk was so sturdy. And it was like I could see the roots going all the way into earth, but the top was just like blowing in the breeze, so
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
sturdy, and it's like the rigid branch snaps.
Mm-hmm.
And it, so it just, you have to go with what's happening. You have to find your flow. And it sounds like that's what you did. You finally found your flow, what made sense for you. And you're an incredible healer, I must say.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then how did you go from that into like the shamanic work that you do? Because you could connect those dots.
I had no intention of doing healing work in the world. I loved the experience with it, but that was for other people.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, it was working with Marianne, who she was trained as a shaman. And the part that was funny is that the person who did the training actually said, you know how to do this. And she's like, yeah, I know how to do it, but I don't know how to explain what I'm doing. Like, I need to connect it to explanation. So after she went through a whole bunch of training, she started teaching shamanism and developed her own curriculum for it. And she did 2 or 3 years, and she kept inviting me, and I kept saying, nope, I'm not a healer. I'm not doing this. And then in I think it was the third year, she invited me, and she goes, it's a great way to heal yourself. And I was like, oh, well, she's right. All right, I'm all about that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I went to the first year of shaman school to heal myself. And it's a 2-year program, but I wasn't attached to being a shaman.
Yeah.
I was there for healing. So we get done with the first year, everything's great. I'm like, great, I'm done. And then the second year rolls around, and I'm being called to go to the second year, and I'm like, what is this about? And then I realized it's because my kids will need me. Like I have very sensitive kids.
Yes.
And so I was like, I needed to learn some energetic techniques, not just for me, but to also support them. And so I ended up in the second year. And so I became a shaman, and I took the certificate and put it somewhere and was like, okay, that's like a nice experience I've had. Still no intention of doing this work in the world. And then everybody at the end of the second year said, well, what's next year? And she's like, nothing. I have nothing. And they're like, well, we don't need a curriculum. You're just going to tell us the weekends and we'll show up. She's like, okay. And I'm like, I'm good. And then I'm like, oh man, this is what I'm supposed to do in the world. Like it came to me, and I was a little bit terrified, but I did go. So that's how I went down the shaman path. And I'm famous in shaman school for sleeping through the entire first year. So Marianne would say, today we're going to talk about ancestral healing. And I would
You'd be asleep.
Which is actually how I came to play the crystal bowls, because I went out I would fall asleep for all of it. And I would come back, right, and be like, okay, whatever.
Was she playing any music or anything? Or she was just talking?
No, she would talk and then set you up. Yeah, she would start talking and I would get tired. Because she was transmitting energy, right? Words have energy, and she was transmitting energy. And again, here's my brain all the way over here, trying to act like an engineer, right? To being guided all the way back the other way,
right? And
so she had a couple years later, she was starting another round of shaman school, and she said, "Hey, do you want to help me teach the first year since you slept through it?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." Yeah. So we're in school, and we're in the second or third class, and Marianne had a crystal bowl collection, and she would play the bowls, and I loved them. I could listen to them forever. And so she sets the whole class up like she normally does, only instead of getting up to play the bowls, she says, and Laura's going to play the bowls. And I was like that moment stretched on for what felt like 10 minutes in my head of am I going to do it? And wanting to be but I can't. And then just being okay. So I just got up, walked across the room, sat down, and, a little backstory. I'm the person who's not traditionally musically inclined, who can't carry a tune, who had to lip sync in the 5th and 8th grade so that I could pass and I wouldn't bring my partner down. That's my relationship with music. I enjoy listening to it. So, anyway, I sat down and I started tentatively playing the bowls, and then I realized that there's a way in which I can feel the resonance of them through me.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, based on how there's a way that I can sense the vibration and know more of this, less of this. And so I just started playing them. And then it would have all ended there, but it wasn't the universe's plan. I walked into my yoga studio that week, and the yoga studio owner says, "We're thinking about doing Sunday wellness events, and I have 2 people signed up to do meditations. Can you think of something else we can offer?" And I'm like, I think I can play the bowls, and I think I can get them there. She's like, "Great. How about Sunday the blah, blah, blah?" And I'm like, what did I just do?
Wow.
So I showed up, and 20 people were there, and then I almost turned around and left. Because I was like, I don't know, like, the story in my head was always, I don't know how to do this.
Right.
Right. And I've learned, like, that's the ego part of the conversation.
Right.
I don't know how to do this, where something in me always knew.
Right. You had an override. And I think when you said you fell asleep, through like shaman school, I think you still got all the downloads that you needed.
Yeah.
You still got what you needed from the class.
Exactly. And
now you can pay it forward,
Yeah, and I had to be asleep to get the downloads is the part. Because it took my mind right out of the equation.
Right, because if you had your engineering mind going, you would have been trying to dissect everything.
Mm-hmm.
How does this work? Where does this go? How does this fit in?
Yeah, and it turns out that, so Marianne and I still play with Marianne's bowls, and I've added a whole bunch of bowls to the collection. So I have, I don't know, 13, 15, 20. I don't know how many bowls I have, but a lot.
Yeah.
But it's really cool because as I have been more and more on this path, my bowls have gotten bigger and bigger, which is like really cool when you're listening to it. And my body's like, really? You're going to make me carry around a 22-inch bowl? Like, those are heavy. But what I find is that there's a way in which the size of them and the way that they're played together actually is helping us remember, is releasing the layers and layers of society's expectations, our own expectations, and all of these things.
Yeah, and the vibration too, it hits your cells, when it like restructures them. Like you said, and you can release things that you have no idea were even in the snake pit of your psyche. But here it comes.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Yeah.
And things that you're like stymied and stuck around. Like you go to a bowl session and then all of a sudden like the light comes on. You're like, oh, I had no idea.
Yeah. So do you bring the same, like how do you know what bowls to bring when you do your classes?
So I'll sit down with them, like when they're all in one place, they're all organized around, and I gong them. So gonging is where you tap on the rim. And I'll gong them, and the ones that want to come, I'll be like, okay, like tell me who wants to come.
Oh,
and,
I love it.
And
yeah.
the ones that want to come they'll sound
Yeah.
like they have a clearer sound. The other ones are sort of like, really, you want me to move?
Again.
And then the ones that want to come are like, pick me.
Well, so how many do you usually have the same number, or is it just like your intuition and how the bowls talk to you?
It is my intuition and how the bowls talk to me, and I like to have 5 or more. And I have I have the big quartz crystal bowls, and I have some optically clear crystal bowls as well.
There was one, it looked like a double-sided, or did it have a handle
chalice.
on
It
it?
has a handle.
Like a chalice?
Yeah.
Yes. How is that different from the crystal bowls?
Yeah, so it's also a crystal bowl, but it's an optically clear one.
Okay.
So it's a higher quality.
Okay.
And so it tends to have a higher pitch to it. And it also brings a lightness. Like it's a lightness, but not to mistake lightness for like not as deep, but more like a joy thread
I like that.
that goes through it. So I like to pair that. And the other thing, because it has a handle, I can walk around when people are laying down, and I can know where the vibration needs to go. So I'll stand over people and hold the bowl by their ear, or over their head, or through their body to help move.
Wow.
That little
So
bit.
after your classes, do you get a lot of positive feedback? Like, do you have like share and tell? And What have been some like
Yeah.
experiences that your
Yeah.
clients have had?
So after classes, I do like to hold a space for people to be able to share what's happening for them. And I actually started doing this thing, which I love. So after a session, I will offer to smudge people, and smudging is clearing their energy. So I have a Florida water spray that I put in a pump bottle so that I don't have to spit on people. Because if you were in Peru and you saw a shaman, they would drink it and then spit it up in the air.
Yes.
But like I had no desire to do that. So, but in clearing people's energy, there's two things that are going on. Like I get to actually release anything that might be slightly holding on still for them. But I also get to help them. I get to share a perspective for them about what I see as shifting in their energy that can often empower them to make sense of their experiences.
Yes.
And so just like with you, when I could say like, oh yes, it was your heart connecting to your power. So I do that. And then it's so cool because there was a friend who brought a friend. And I said, so what are they noticing? And she goes, oh my gosh, she has a totally different life right now. Like she'd been in a relationship, like she had been looking for a relationship for years. And it turns out she found one. And he happened to live 3 blocks away from where she lived.
Wow.
And, and life totally changed around for her. And not just being in a relationship, but the kinds of activities and like her life became fuller.
Was this after one session with you?
After one session.
Yeah.
So it's crazy what can happen after one session. Or people can say, just like you did, like I could feel the energy moving off of me. I could feel something opening inside of me. Or I have people who have done like get new jobs, right? Or they my favorite one is when abundance opens up for people too, because we all think like, oops, I've got this fixed. Like we were all bought into this idea of how finances work, and I know I had this belief like you have to work hard to earn money,
right?
Like and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You don't earn money unless you work hard.
Right. I was raised like that also because I was born in like the 50s, and so I grew up, I came of age like in the 60s, when it was the riots and all like the killings, and just magnified what's now, it's just been the same thing, different decade. And I remember when I was in high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I either wanted to be a nurse, a child psychologist, or a teacher. And my mother, who had gone back to nursing school, she graduated in 1970. And she had 5 kids at home, 5 teenagers. And she went back to school to like better her life. Yeah. And she said, well, why don't you be a nurse? You'll always have a job. And I was like, okay. And that's why I became a nurse, because my mother told me to, like the same as you, like this is what you have to do. And it served me well. I had a really good career with it. But now I can do like my energy work. I can do things that I truly love now that I'm retired. Yeah. And it's funny how just one thing leads to another, but going through it, I also was very shut down during that period of time. Yeah. I just like went through the motions. I was a nurse, and this is what you do, and I had kids at home, and I have to do this. And but a lot of us were in that same boat. And it's not until something happens, like you get this awakening, and it's like, no, this isn't working anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, this isn't working. What am I going to do? And and you have to change. You find something.
Yeah, and I think it's also so important to say like our parents, just like we were doing the best we could with what we had. Right. So I no way blame them. There's so many gifts I have.
Oh my God.
That,
yes.
And at the same time, it's like the yes and. Right. Right. Yes and. And so, and I have this. What I believe, right, is that our soul makes all these agreements with all of these people and places and things in our lifetime, even before we come in. Right. And so they choose, like we chose our families, even if like as an adult, we look at it and we say, why would I choose that pain and suffering? And it's almost like, we're in society, we're so taught like pain is bad.
Right.
And this is
you
good.
want to feel good. Take a pill, feel better. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's this like, oh, like there's something in that transformation, right? There's something in that learning and deciding. And, you know, one of my favorite quotes is that you know, life isn't falling apart, it's coming together.
Right. Yeah.
Because I really feel like, you know, a lot of times our lives do feel like they're falling apart, and that's the exact moment we're opening to some incredible new opportunity that we can't see yet. So
Exactly.
It's scary.
Right. And that happened to me when I was back like 25, 30 years ago, you know, and it's interesting because the full moon is tomorrow night,
Yeah.
you know, and it's about letting go.
Yeah.
You know, so there's lots to let go of. And I used to say, you know, let go and let God, not as a religion, but you just have to trust and have faith.
Yeah.
And forgiveness is a big thing too. Like you said, like the parents, like, you know, my parents, like they did the best they could. You know, my dad, I think I've mentioned this before, he was a Navy SEAL in Vietnam.
Wow.
And so there was a lot of like, you know, unrest in the house, you know, when he would come home. And now I get it. But just when I think of the good that I got from my mother and the good I got from my father, and just, it's like, I'm so grateful for them both. I'm so grateful for my parents, you know, for being who they were and allowing me to be me.
Exactly.
You know, and that's where it kind of starts, forgiving yourself and forgiving others. Easier said than done. So if you have a session with the bowls with Lauren here, Laura, clears out the debris.
Right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
set your intention.
Well, and it's so, you know, it's, as we talk about, you know, we could have great thoughts and great intentions and be minding what we do, and we still live in this world, right? And this world is always bombarding us with an opportunity to lower our vibration. It's more so than to raise our vibration.
Right.
So it's a constant looking at, like, who am I surrounded with, and what power am I giving someone?
Right. Because you have to reclaim your own power and surround yourself with like-minded people who can help you.
Yeah, and I'm a recovering people pleaser, as probably many of the audience will recognize in themselves, right? And I actually got to see recently how that comes into play, which is like, and I always thought it was because like I wanted people to be happy because then I was valuable. But really, it had more to do with, because I was so sensitive, the environment, I was picking up everything in the environment. So I couldn't stand environments that had a lot of strife in it or a lot of repressed emotions. So I wanted to make people happy so that I could be happy.
Right.
And it seems kind of wild. And now it can be like, oh no, I'm going to be happy and you guys are on your own. Like, I am very clear about what works for me.
Yeah. So when did you come to that? Because that's a big step, to realize that you have to be your own person and your happiness is first, and you're not selfish. There's nothing wrong with being selfish, taking care of yourself first.
Yeah, that was my 50s.
Okay.
and even like I'm still getting gifts from I'm still having a deeper and deeper awareness. So it's like none of this is like a switch flipping.
Right.
It's all these degrees, like a bit at a time.
Yes.
And so I was actually getting ready for this podcast, like, and thinking about it, that's when I was like, oh, very interesting that this is, because I knew I was a people pleaser, but I wouldn't have put it, the why, in the same way as I just did.
Yeah. So I know it's like the layers gently peel, you know, gently, because I know for me, and even with, because before I went to the open house, you know, when I went into your class, I had gone through something like personal, like something that was ancestral, like passed down, you know, like the drama, the trauma, the you know, the codes that they passed down.
Yeah.
And I felt like I didn't react the way the ancestors would have reacted. And I was really proud of myself. Yeah. And then when I had the breakthrough with you with the bowls and just feeling my guides with me, and especially like the power center in the heart and opening up, I'm like, oh my God, it's just slow. That was another layer that came off, you know, and I don't think we're ever like 100%. You know, I think there's always something
Oh,
to
we'll be
figure
dead.
out.
Right. We'll be dead if there's nothing left to figure out.
Okay, I'm here. Okay.
Because there's always,
Yeah.
there's
always
infinite
something.
possibilities for
Right.
us. We don't live that way.
I know.
But
I know.
there are.
But it's good, and I welcome them now. And they're not as jarring, and they're not as like, I don't want to say traumatic, but as like upsetting, or like it's easier to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a balance. It's a nice balance. Whereas before, and I know because I was a psych nurse for so long, and I would see my patients, inpatient psychiatry, and I would see them getting triggered and just flashbacks to, and with the same emotions like 30 to 40 years ago, they were still there. They would just go right back to that because they hadn't learned the coping skills that they needed to.
Well, and because it was still in their body.
Yes.
Like, it is so cool to be able to, realize that our field goes out in front of us. Mm-hmm. And so if my field is clear and light and believes that life is going to be magical today, I actually have a magical day.
Yes.
But if I get a phone call and I feel bad because I haven't done something, or then I start to find all the ways that life is hassling.
Right.
So it's this fascinating thing that our energy is equal parts what's happening in our energy field, but what's happening in our thoughts.
Exactly. Right.
I love all the new that science is catching up to. What we've known.
Right.
Is that our thoughts create our reality because they create our energy, then that creates our reality.
Right. I know. And there's a book I like to refer to. Maybe you've read it. It's by Carolyn Myss, Myss, Why People Don't Heal and How They Can. And she talks about how our biography becomes our biology. So our stories become our illnesses.
Yeah.
And people don't want to necessarily heal. A lot of people don't want to heal. They don't want this path of healing. They don't want to be on the other side because they're afraid of who they will be on the other side. The devil you know is better than the devil you don't know. Yeah. So they'd rather stay stuck. But to all the people who like to evolve, and do their own self-care, it's like there are so many opportunities and teachers to help people.
Yeah, and it is so cool that there's so many opportunities, and the trick is to find the ones that you're curious about,
right? And that you resonate with, because all healers aren't going to be for all people.
No,
as you know, you can have a class and have 10 people in your class, and they're all going to have a different experience. Or I could have 10 different, I could be just little me with 10 different healers. Experiencing what they have to offer, and I'm going to have a different, and some of them I'm just not going to jive with, and that's okay.
Well, exactly. And that's the part that, at the end of the day, you have to trust what you feel.
Yes.
That's the only thing you can really trust. And it doesn't make anybody else bad or not good. It's like, okay, that's not in alignment with what works for me right now.
That word, alignment, yes. Okay, well, Laura, it was great having you here. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Is there anything else I'd like to add? So I would always want people to remember what precious human beings they are, how much light and gifts and talents, no matter what their mind is telling them, just how beautiful and precious and unique they are.
Okay. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure having you here.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Sacred Nurse, saying goodbye for now. Thank you for joining. For more information, go to my website, sacrednurse.com.
I'll be with you soon. Oh, everything's gonna be fine. Everything's gonna be fine. It'll all turn out right. It'll all, it's all